demoted or fired or some way they are just taken out of the scene.
Harassed.
Right.
Yeah.
This has happened to 3 of our people here, although the last lady has not lost her job. She stood up to them and maintained her job. But it's quite a story, and in a moment you will hear some stories that will make you very angry, I think. Right back in a... All right, let me introduce you to our next guest now. Sitting next to me is Judith Piesco, who was working as Deputy Commissioner in charge of civil service testing in New York City. She was called to appear before a state Senate committee investigating police hiring practices. She was told by her bosses to stonewall the committee, but under oath, to tell the truth, she said that functional illiterates could pass that police exam. So we'd like to hear from each one of you exactly what happened in your own words. Judith?
You pretty much summed it up in the little...
You said that a functional illiterate could pass a police examination.
I responded to a question by the senator regarding whether a functional illiterate could pass the examination. And I said that in my professional opinion it was possible. From that moment on...
Did you use the words functional illiterate, or did he?
He did at the hearing.
He used the words. You never said that.
No.
Yet when it came out on the press, it was almost labeled that you said it.
Well, sometimes the press
Well, I know that, but really, didn't you get stuck with that tag, functional illiterates?
Yes, I did.
Okay, that's what I wanted to know. So what happened to you?
From that day forward, I was frozen out by my bosses.
In what way were you frozen out?
They just stopped talking to me, in effect. I had a big bureau to run, and I had no contact with either of my superiors. My evaluation plunged dramatically from outstanding to marginal.
You're evaluated every quarter or every year?
Every year.
Every year.
I was denied a raise, and as soon as the municipal elections were over, I was fired.
For what reason?
Initially, there was no reason given. There is no requirement that a reason be given for an appointed official. Subsequently, in response to my lawsuit, the city claimed that I used offensive language at meetings that was abrasive.
You did sue the city to get your job back?
I sued the city for damages. I sued the city for violation of First Amendment rights.
Did you win?
It's still in litigation.
Okay. So what are you doing now?
Trying to sell my apartment.
Why?
It's very difficult to maintain when you're unemployed.
How long have you been unemployed?
Since December.
What did your job pay?
It was paying close to $66,000.
It's going to be tough to duplicate that, isn't it?
I think it will be very tough to duplicate that.
You've been trying to find another job, Judith?
Yes, I have.
Has the city hindered your search for another job in any way?
I would have to say yes. They're fighting my unemployment claim on some esoteric basis. I also had been hired by the Board of Education as a consultant on a contract. The contract is still good. After 5 days, the chancellor's representative at the Board of Education said, put pressure on people to not allow me to continue the work for which I was hired.
And all because this gentleman on the board asked you, could a functional illiterate pass the present police examination, and you said yes.
That's what started this, yes.
Judith Piesco is a case where the matter is in litigation. And I'm not going to comment on that except to say that, in my judgment, she is not a whistleblower, but that will ultimately be determined by a judge in a court of law.
All right, that's what the mayor had to say late last night. We'll take a break. We'll come back and get your comments on his comments. Judith, how weak is this police examination here in New York City?
It's very weak. It's very weak. It tests, we're not even quite sure what it tests for, but at best it tests for very minimal competence in any mental abilities area.
Are people who have trouble reading and writing being admitted to the police department?
You know, there are, of course, different versions of the story depending upon whom you speak with. Chief of Personnel in the police department claims that these people are all reading at extraordinary college level. I have writing samples that would certainly contraindicate that. One needn't have any particular comprehension level of comprehension to pass this test.
It wasn't always like that, though. The test has been
Downgraded?
reduced, downgraded?
Yes, it has been made progressively easier. I would just like to comment on what Ed and Joan have been saying. The state senate, before whom I testified, the state senator also conducted an investigation into my firing and concluded that it was in retaliation and that this has a very chilling effect on government employees.
Would you do it again?
Yes, I would.
Yeah.
Certainly.
Good luck to all three of you. Thank you very much for coming by. Good luck to you. Ed, thank you. Thank you, John. We'll be right back.
Celebrating a $1.9 million court victory tonight. Back in 1985, Judith Piesco testified the test was so simple, someone could pass it without even being able to read. 6 months later, she lost her job for making that statement in public. Piesco filed suit against the city, and 7 years later, she won.
I glory in the vindication, and I glory in the knowledge that 8 members of a jury, 8 members of the public could see through these big wigs at City Hall and could see through to the truth.
Well, it may take a while for Piesco to collect her settlement. The city's legal department says it plans to appeal the verdict to the Supreme Court.